Hi and welcome to Carnegie. Today I will present Lumi Gruppen, an educational group with two operating segments in Oslo New University College, or ONH, and Sonans. ONH is a private university college in higher education, including bachelor's and master degrees, while Sonans is the market leader of paid candidate exam preparation and is catering to students who is taking the exam to improve or complete their grades and make efficient preparations for this. We recently initiated coverage with a fair value range of 15 to 18 Norwegian krona. Today, I will present the highlights of our initiation report and present our outlook and estimates for the operating segments. Our investment thesis is three main items. First one is the fast growth of higher studies online in Norway. Second is that we argue higher education is a growth market that is likely to keep growing for a longer period ahead. Third is the solid cash flow generation and why we expect free cash flow to grow ahead. But we start with a short company introduction. Oslo New University College is about 60% of the group. The university provides bachelor's, master's, and shorter courses with an estimated 50% of the programs longer, meaning greater revenue visibility. The college has grown by 18% per year since 2015 and had an average EBITDA margin of 28%, currently targeting 25% EBIT margin. Sonans is the remaining 40% of revenue. The company has a solid pre-pandemic track record of growing 11% per year for 10 years before the pandemic, with a market-leading position with about 50% of the niche market for private candidate exam test preparation. The company has reported average EBITDA margins of 27% before the pandemic and has a current EBIT margin target of about 15%. Next, I will deep dive into our investment thesis. The first aspect of our investment thesis is the strong growth in online studies in Norway. Norwegian online studies after high school has grown at about 10% per year over the last 10 years. And while this was accelerated during the pandemic, we have seen further expansion also post-pandemic in 2023 and 2024, which leads us to believe that the pandemic mainly sped up an already ongoing migration towards online. This is partly driven by vocational school, but also for general studies. Further, online share of revenue total in Norway is still only 10%, suggesting that there is room to improve. Private actors in this field, such as ONH and Christiania, are driving a large share of this growth, suggesting that private education providers are better at capitalizing on the migration, while public education providers may have, for example, insufficient infrastructure. Secondly, we like to highlight why we think that the market will grow and why ONH will grow with the market. First, there are not enough admission spots for all applicants, and in some subjects, such as psychology, the gap is 4 times, meaning that the number of applicants are 4 times greater than the number of students admitted for any given year. This dynamic has been in the market for long, and what this implies is that there is an unmet demand that can enable a company such as ONH to grow by expanding operations digitally or through new course generation. We think that this particularly benefits online educational providers because they scale more, resulting in greater margin expansion. Lastly, we argue that the group has a good cash flow generating dynamic. ONH, with 60% of the revenue, targets 25% operating margin, and Sonans targeting about 15%. Students pay tuition fees up front, which creates a good dynamic as large expenses such as salaries are paid monthly, so only little working capital is required when growing fast organically. In addition, ONH has invested about 20 million in developing new courses during 2021 to 2024, which is about 3% of total sales and 20% of incremental sales. And we argue that with the predictability of revenue growth, this is very solid numbers with only limited maintenance capex and predictable expansion capex. In total, the anticipated margin expansion and investments ahead combine to free cash flow estimates of 3 to 5% of revenue for the upcoming 3 years, which we think is good numbers considering the strong growth. Next, we will present our outlooks for the operating segments. One important item to highlight is that students enroll for longer periods, providing predictability to the revenue for the short term. For the period ahead, we expect revenue growth of 10 to 11% for ONH during the period 2025 to 2027. To achieve this, we anticipate that the group reinvests cash flow at good ROIs as it has historically. In addition, the job market has been seemingly connected to higher education enrollment, where fewer job vacancies brought growth in enrollment into higher education. This is encouraging considering the reduction in job vacancies that we have seen during 2024. Another item that we feel is important to highlight is that accreditation. The group is potentially receiving NUCUT institutional accreditation in 2026. This would give ONH autonomy in creating new courses without the need for approval of the individual courses. We estimate that this would substantially reduce the time to market from 1.5 to 2 years down to a few months. For Sonans, we estimate revenue growth of 2 to 5% between 2025 and 2027. Sonans was heavily impacted by the pandemic for several reasons. One, as end-of-year testing was cancelled for high schoolers, students were assessed based on their performance across the year, causing inflated grades and reducing the need for post-graduation improvement. This, among other items, caused the market to drop, severely impacting Sonans with an omni-channel strategy. Following a decline in number of tests of about 30% from peak levels, we saw a stabilization during 2024 of the number of tests of 2%. This is encouraging, although we think that the market should make a wider recovery before we can expect growth similar to the pre-pandemic track record. We do, however, believe that Sonans can report double-digit operating margins ahead, while we argue that achieving pre-pandemic margin levels requires a wider return in the underlying market for private candidate exams. So to summarize, our investment thesis is 3 main items. First one is the fast growth of higher studies online in Norway. Second is the growth prospects and track record of higher education. The third is a solid cash flow generation in Lumi Gruppen's operations. Thanks for watching.